The transport ship shuddered as it docked with the massive station orbiting Kashvar Prime. Tai Yang pressed his face against the small window, watching the jungle planet spin below. Green and blue swirled together, beautiful and deadly. Somewhere down there, the biggest hunt of his life was waiting. He grabbed his gear bag and headed toward the exit. The bag felt heavier than it should. Maybe it was just nerves. At 23 years old, he was finally a real member of the Galactic Hunting Guild. All those years of training on Earth, all those smaller hunts on safer worlds had led to this moment. The station's main hall was enormous. Hunters from dozens of species walked past him. Most of them were huge. The Varrock stood over 7 feet tall, their scales gleaming under the bright lights. The Krelthar had 4 arms, each one thick with muscle. The Chirix clicked and chittered, their insect bodies covered in natural armor. Next to them, Tai Yang felt very small. He was 5.5 feet tall. For a human, that was normal. For a hunter in the guild, it made him look like a child. You must be the human. The voice came from above. Tai Yang looked up at a massive Varrock. The creature's yellow eyes stared down at him with something like amusement. I am Skarath, captain of this hunt.
You are Tai Yang?
Yes, sir. Tai Yang kept his voice steady. Skarath's mouth split into what might have been a smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. Sir, how polite. Tell me, little human, have you ever seen a nightmaw before? Only in training videos. Training videos. Skarath laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. This should be entertaining. Come, meet your team. The other hunters stood around a holographic display table. When Tai Yang approached, several of them stopped talking. A female Krelthar with scarred blue skin looked him up and down. Her 4 arms crossed in front of her chest. This is the human? She asked. This small thing? Velcaris, please be nice to our new member, Skarath said, though his tone suggested he did not really care. He comes highly recommended by his training facility on Earth. Earth? Velcaris spoke the word like it tasted bad. A world with no real predators. What do humans know about hunting? You use tools because you are too weak to use claws. Your planet is soft. You are soft. Tai Yang felt his face get hot, but he said nothing. Getting angry would only make things worse. I have hunted on 16 worlds, Velcaris continued. I have killed prey that would eat your entire species for breakfast. And they send me this? She gestured at Tai Yang with 2 of her hands. How did Earth even qualify for guild membership? Velcaris makes a good point, a Chirix hunter clicked. Humans are fragile. They break easily. Perhaps he should stay on the ship. Skarath waved a clawed hand. No, the guild accepted his application. He paid his fees. He will come with us, but perhaps we can find him a safe job. Supply management, yes. Counting rations, checking equipment. Important work for someone of his abilities. The other hunters laughed. Tai Yang stood there, his hands clenched at his sides. He had expected this. Humans were new to the guild. They were smaller than most species, weaker by the numbers. On paper, they did not look impressive at all, but his instructors had told him something important. They said humans had other strengths that did not show up on physical tests. He just needed a chance to prove it. An older human stood near the back of the group. He had not said anything yet. His face was weathered, with scars across his cheek and forehead. Gray touched his black hair at the temples. He watched Tai Yang with dark, unreadable eyes. That is Dai Jung, Skarath said, noticing where Tai Yang was looking. Our only other human. Perhaps you two can compare notes on being small and useless. Dai Jung still said nothing. He just held Tai Yang's gaze for a moment, then turned back to the holographic display. The briefing began. Skarath explained the mission in his grinding voice. A nightmaw had been attacking colonial settlements on Kashvar Prime. The creature was huge, weighing over 6 tons. It was smart, fast, and extremely dangerous. The colonial government was paying a fortune to have it killed. This was a Class 9 extreme mission, the kind that made reputations. The nightmaw is an apex predator, Skarath continued. It hunts anything that moves. Last week it killed a full Varrock strike team, 5 trained warriors dead in minutes. This is not a beast to take lightly. The hologram showed recorded footage of a nightmaw. It looked like a nightmare made flesh. 6 legs, each ending in razor claws. A head that was mostly mouth filled with teeth like swords. Armor plates covered its body. Its eyes glowed with an intelligence that was somehow worse than mindless rage. We leave in 2 hours, Skarath said. Check your equipment. Make your peace with your gods. And you, he pointed at Tai Yang.
Stay out of the way.
Your job is to manage supplies and stay alive. Nothing more. Understood? Understood, Tae-yang said quietly. The meeting ended. Hunters scattered to prepare. Tae-yang went to find his equipment locker. His heart sank when he opened it. Someone had gone through his gear. His thermal scanner was gone. His backup power cells were missing. His climbing rope had been cut into useless pieces. Even his medical kit had been emptied. All that remained was basic survival gear, a standard plasma pistol, and his personal items. He stood there, staring at the sabotaged locker. Someone on the team had done this. They wanted him to fail before the hunt even started. They wanted him to either quit or look incompetent. For a moment, anger burned hot in his chest. Then it faded, replaced by something colder, something more useful. Fine. If they wanted to play this way, he would show them what humans could do with nothing but basic gear and determination. Tae-yang began repacking what remained. He had some personal items they had not touched. A good knife from home, paracord, a fire starter, water purification tablets. Not much, but it would have to be enough. They got you too. Dae-jung's voice came from behind him. Tae-yang turned. The older human stood in the doorway, his face still showing no expression. This happened to you? Tae-yang asked. First 3 hunts, Dae-jung said. They need to test you. See if you will run crying home to Earth. I am not going home. Good. Dae-jung stepped closer. He pulled a knife from his belt, offering it handle first. From Earth for earthwork. You will need it down there. The knife was beautiful. Simple, practical, deadly. Tae-yang took it, feeling the perfect weight in his hand. Thank you, Dae-jung nodded once. Watch everything. Learn from what you see. When the time comes, they will know what you are made of. But not because I told them. Because you showed them. He turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. Down in that jungle, rules change. Size does not matter as much as they think. Remember that. Then he was gone, leaving Tae-yang alone with his sabotaged gear and his thoughts. 2 hours later, the hunting party boarded the dropship. Tae-yang sat in the back, ignored by everyone except Dae-jung, who gave him one small nod. As the ship descended toward the green hell below, Tae-yang touched the knife at his belt. His instructor's words echoed in his mind. Humans are persistence hunters. We are not the strongest or the fastest, but we never stop. We never quit. That is our strength. The jungle rushed up to meet them, and the hunt began. The jungle was alive. That was the first thing Tae-yang noticed when they left the dropship. Everything moved. Vines swayed without wind. Flowers opened and closed like mouths. Strange calls echoed through the thick air, some high and whistling, others deep enough to feel in his chest. The humidity wrapped around him like a wet blanket. The hunting party moved in formation. Scareth led from the front, his large body pushing through the undergrowth. Belcaris and 2 other Krelthar warriors flanked the sides. The Chirik scouts moved ahead, their multiple legs carrying them quickly over the rough ground. Dae-jung walked near the middle, his weapon ready. Tae-yang brought up the rear, carrying supply packs. They had been walking for 3 hours when the first death happened. A Chirik scout named Tikchar moved too close to what looked like a beautiful blue flower. The flower exploded. Vines shot out faster than anyone could react, wrapping around the scout's body. Tikchar managed one brief scream before the vines dragged him into the flower's center. The petals closed with a wet sound. The entire team froze. Move away from the plants, Scareth ordered. Stay alert. This jungle wants to kill us as much as the Nightmaw does. They continued more carefully now. Tae-yang watched where he stepped. He noticed things. Small signs. Broken branches. Disturbed earth. Claw marks on trees. Something big had passed this way recently. And recently meant within the last few hours. He looked more closely at the claw marks. They were deliberate, too evenly spaced to be accidental, almost like the creature was leaving signs on purpose, marking its territory. Warning them, or maybe inviting them to follow. Captain, Tae-yang called forward. These marks. I think the Nightmaw is watching us. Scareth did not even turn around. Thank you for your expert opinion, Supply Manager. We are here to hunt it. Of course it knows we are here. No, I mean it is hunting us back. These marks are too organized. It is smart. Velcaris laughed, the sound harsh in the humid air. The human thinks he understands predators. Stick to counting supplies, little one. Tae-yang wanted to argue, but Dae-jung caught his eye and shook his head slightly. The message was clear. Save your breath. They will not listen. The second death came at sunset. The jungle grew darker quickly, the thick canopy blocking most of the light. The team was setting up camp in a small clearing when shapes burst from the undergrowth. They were smaller than the nightmaw, maybe wolf-sized, but there were dozens of them. Pack hunters with too many teeth and eyes that reflected the emergency lights. A young Varrox named Skrull was caught away from the group, setting up a perimeter sensor. The pack brought him down in seconds. His screams did not last long. The rest of the team formed a defensive circle, weapons blazing. The pack hunters were fast, but they were not prepared for concentrated fire. After losing 5 of their number, they vanished back into the jungle as quickly as they had appeared. "Count the gear," Skarath snapped at Tae-Yang. "Make sure nothing was taken." Tae-Yang did a quick inventory. 2 packs were missing. 1 contained food rations. The other had medical supplies. He reported this to Skarath. "We can manage," the captain said, though his yellow eyes showed concern for the first time. "We are hunters. We adapt." That night, Tae-Yang took a watch shift. Dae-Jung sat beside him, both of them staring into the dark jungle. Strange lights floated between the trees. Bioluminescent insects, maybe, or something pretending to be insects. "You were right about the nightmaw," Dae-Jung said quietly. "It is playing with us, testing us. You saw the marks too?" "I saw them. I also saw that the pack attack was not random. Something drove those creatures toward us. Something big enough to scare them, make them desperate." Tae-Yang felt cold despite the humid heat. "The nightmaw pushed them at us." "Yes, it is learning what we can do, how we fight, how we react." Dae-Jung was quiet for a moment. "This is not a normal hunt. That creature down there is as smart as we are, maybe smarter." The next morning started badly and got worse. The team's communication equipment stopped working. No signal reached their ship. No signal reached the station. They were alone in the jungle with a creature that was hunting them as much as they were hunting it. Skarath tried to hide his worry, but Tae-Yang could see the tension in how the captain moved. Velkaris argued for returning to the dropship immediately. "We are not prepared for this," she said. 2 dead already. No communications. "This mission is cursed." "We are not cowards," Skarath growled. "We finish what we start. The nightmaw is close. I can feel it. We complete the mission today." They tracked the creature to a rocky area where the jungle thinned slightly. Fresh claw marks covered the stones. Recent kills lay scattered around, torn apart and half-eaten. The nightmaw was definitely close. That was when Velkaris made her mistake. She moved away from the group, following what she thought was a blood trail.
Tae-Yang saw it happen.
The trail was too obvious, too easy to follow. It was a trap. "Wait," he called out. "Do not." Too late. Velkaris pushed through a thick stand of ferns and the nightmaw was there. It was bigger than the videos had shown. Much bigger. Its armor plates gleamed like black metal. 6 legs moved with terrible grace, and its eyes, those intelligent eyes, looked right at Velkaris with what could only be called amusement. The creature struck. One massive claw swept toward the Krelthar warrior. Velkaris barely got her weapon up in time. The impact sent her flying backward, crashing into rocks. She tried to stand, but her leg bent at a wrong angle. Broken. The nightmaw advanced slowly, in no hurry. It knew she could not escape. Tae-Yang did not think. He just moved. He pulled a flash grenade from his belt, one of the few pieces of equipment that had not been sabotaged. He threw it hard. The grenade exploded in the air between Velkaris and the nightmaw. Bright light and loud noise filled the rocky clearing. The nightmaw flinched back, confused. Not hurt, just surprised. That moment of confusion was enough. Tae-Yang ran to Velkaris. She was heavy, much heavier than a human, but fear gave him strength. He grabbed her upper arms and dragged her backward. His muscles screamed. His back felt like it might break. But he kept moving. The nightmaw's vision cleared. It looked at Tae-Yang now, this small creature that had dared to interfere. For a long second, human and monster stared at each other. Then weapons fire erupted from multiple directions. Skarath and the others had caught up. Plasma bolts and explosive rounds hammered into the nightmaw's armor. The creature roared, a sound that shook Tae-Yang's bones. But it was not hurt, just annoyed. It turned and crashed away into the jungle, moving with impossible speed for something so large. Tae-Yang collapsed next to Velkaris, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might explode. Dae-Jung reached them first, checking the Krelthar's injuries. Broken leg. Cracked ribs. She will live. Dae-Jung looked at Tae-Yang. Good work. Velkaris stared up at Taeyang. Her face was difficult to read, but her 4 hands clenched and unclenched. You saved me. Yes, a human. A small, weak human saved me from a nightmaw. She said it like she still could not believe it. Scareth approached. For once, the big Varrox did not look amused. That was very stupid, he told Taeyang. You could have been killed. She would have died. Perhaps. But you are not a warrior. You are supply management. This is not your job. Before Taeyang could respond, Velkaris spoke. He is right. I had it under control. I did not need rescue from a human. Taeyang stared at her. She was lying. Everyone knew she was lying. She had been seconds from death. But she could not admit that a human, a creature she had mocked, had saved her life. Of course, Taeyang said flatly. My mistake. They made camp right there, unable to move safely with Velkaris injured. Daejung set her leg while she bit back screams. The other hunters set up a defensive perimeter, weapons pointed at every shadow. As night fell, their communication equipment suddenly crackled to life for just a moment. But it was not their ship trying to contact them. It was something else. A strange static, almost like breathing. Then the equipment died again. What was that? A Chirix hunter asked nervously. Nobody had an answer. But Taeyang remembered what Daejung had said. Something big enough to scare pack hunters. Something that could block communications. In the darkness beyond their lights, something moved. Something much larger than a nightmaw. And it was circling their camp, patient and deliberate. The jungle had become very quiet. Even the usual night sounds had stopped. Daejung loaded his weapon with steady hands. Everyone stay sharp. This night is going to be very long. Taeyang gripped his knife and watched the darkness. Somewhere out there, 2 apex predators were moving, and his team was caught between them. The massive shape emerged from the jungle darkness like a ghost. It moved between the trees without sound, which should have been impossible for something so large. Every hunter in the camp raised their weapons. Lights focused on the approaching figure. It was a man. A human man. He stood at least 6 feet tall, broad-shouldered and heavily muscled. Scars covered his bare arms and face. His dark hair was long and tied back. He wore armor made from animal hide and bone, not the high-tech gear most hunters used. A massive blade hung across his back. His eyes were calm, studying the camp with the patience of a natural predator. Hold your fire, the man said. His voice was deep and carried authority. He spoke in perfect standard Galactic, but with an Earth accent. Scareth lowered his weapon slowly. Who are you? You know who I am. Or you should. The man stepped fully into the light. You are in my territory without permission. I want to know why. One of the Chirix hunters made a clicking sound of recognition. The armor. The blade. It cannot be. You are dead. I am very much alive. The man's mouth curved into a smile that did not reach his eyes, though I understand why you might think otherwise. I have not contacted the guild in 5 years. Kale. Daejung breathed. You are Kale, the Alpha Hunter. Taeyang felt his heart skip. Every hunter in the galaxy knew that name. Kale held the guild's highest kill count. He had soloed creatures that required full teams to bring down. 10 years ago, he had disappeared during a hunt and was presumed dead. But here he stood very much alive. That name still follows me, I see. Kale walked closer, examining each hunter with a gaze that missed nothing. When his eyes landed on Velkaris with her splinted leg, he shook his head. Sloppy. You let a nightmaw get the drop on a warrior. In my day, that would have gotten your entire team killed. In your day, Scareth's scales bristled. You abandoned the guild. You have no authority here. I have the authority of these hunting grounds. I have lived here for 5 years. I know every creature, every trail, every danger. You blundered in here like tourists, and you are surprised that 2 of you are already dead. Kyle's voice was harsh. The guild has become weak. You hunt for credits and glory. You have forgotten what it means to be real predators. We are hunting a nightmaw that is killing colonists, Velkaris said. This is a sanctioned guild mission. That nightmaw is a mother protecting her breeding grounds. Did your precious mission briefing mention that? She is not a mindless killer. She is defending her territory from colonists who built their settlement in the middle of her hunting range. Kyle crossed his arms. But you do not care about that. You just want the bounty. How do you know all this? Taeyang asked. The words left his mouth before he could stop them. Kale turned to look at him. Really look at him? Those predator eyes studied Taeyang from head to foot. You, the other human. What is your name? Tae Yang. Why are you here, Tae Yang? It was a simple question, but Tae Yang felt the weight behind it. This was not a man who tolerated lies or empty words. To prove I belong. To prove that humans belong in the guild. Kyle stared at him for several long seconds. Then unexpectedly he laughed. It was not a mocking laugh. It was the laugh of someone who recognized something familiar. At least one of you has an honest reason. Kale moved closer to Tae Yang, looking at his minimal gear, his improvised setup. They sabotaged your equipment. Yes, and you came anyway. Interesting. Kyle noticed the knife Daejung had given him. Good blade. You know how to use it? I am learning. We are all learning. Every hunt teaches us something new if we are smart enough to listen. Kale stepped back, addressing the whole group. The Nightmaw is the least of your problems right now. There is something else in this jungle. Something worse. The communication jamming, Daejung said. Something is blocking our signals. Not something. Someone. Kyle pointed toward the darkness. A Void Stalker has entered this region. It is a rare predator, alpha class, extremely territorial. It kills everything in its range. The electromagnetic field it generates disrupts all technology. Your communications, your advanced weapons, half of them will not work properly. The camp went silent. Even Scarath looked shaken. Everyone had heard stories of Void Stalkers. They were nightmare creatures, nearly impossible to kill. We need to leave, Velkaris said. Get back to the ship. The Stalker is between you and your ship, Kyle said calmly. It has been circling you since sunset. Running will just tire you out before it kills you. Then what do we do? Scarath demanded. You are the great alpha hunter. You must have a plan. Kale smiled coldly. My plan is to let the jungle decide who deserves to live. Prove you are real hunters. Survive one night. If you can do that, I will guide you out tomorrow. You would leave us to die? One of the Chirix hunters asked. I am giving you a chance to prove your worth. More than you deserve, honestly. Kale turned to leave, then paused. He looked at Tae Yang. You human boy. Come with me, Tae Yang hesitated. Scarath stepped forward. He is part of my team. He stays here, is he? Kyle's voice was dangerous. You treat him like supply management. You mock his size. You let your team sabotage his gear. That is not a team member. That is a burden you are carrying out of obligation. He looked at Tae Yang again. I am offering you something else. A chance to learn what our kind can really do. Your choice. Every eye in the camp was on Tae Yang. Daejung gave him a slight nod. Velkaris looked away. Scarath's expression was unreadable. Tae Yang thought about the sabotaged locker, the mocking laughter, the way they dismissed everything he said. Then he thought about Kale's question. Why was he here? I will go with you, Tae Yang said. Smart choice. Kale gestured for him to follow. Grab your gear. We leave now. As Tae Yang gathered his things, Daejung approached him. Be careful. And remember what I said. Size does not matter down here. I will remember. Kale led Tae Yang away from the camp. They moved through the dark jungle with surprising ease. Kale seemed to know exactly where to step, which plants to avoid, where the ground was solid. Tae Yang followed, trying to match his movements. After about 20 minutes, Kale stopped in a small clearing. Ancient trees surrounded them, their trunks carved with strange symbols. Hunter totems, Tae Yang realized. Very old ones. This is a sacred place for hunters, Kale said. I come here to think, to remember what I am. He sat on a fallen log and gestured for Tae Yang to sit. Tell me, what do you know about human evolution? The question surprised Tae Yang. We evolved as persistence hunters. We chased prey over long distances until it collapsed from exhaustion. Correct. Every other species in the galaxy evolved to sprint. Burst speed, overwhelming power, natural weapons. They kill quickly or not at all. Kale leaned forward. But humans? We are different. We do not have claws or thick armor. We are not the strongest or the fastest. Do you know what we have instead? Endurance? Endurance, adaptability, intelligence, the refusal to quit. Kyle pulled his blade and laid it across his knees. Our ancestors hunted animals much larger than themselves. They did not fight these creatures head-on. They tracked them, followed them, wore them down over hours or days until the prey was too tired to fight anymore. Then they made the kill. Tae Yang listened, fascinated. The galaxy mocks us, Kale continued. They see our size and assume we are weak. They forget that Earth's apex predator is not the lion or the bear. It is us, humans. We climb to the top of the food chain not through strength but through persistence and intelligence. Is that why you live out here? To remember that? Partly. Kale's expression grew darker. 10 years ago I was like Scarath, arrogant, hunting for glory and credits. I took my team after a creature called a Blackwing. I did not respect it. I thought my reputation and my weapons were enough. My entire team died because of my arrogance. I survived barely. I spent 5 years here learning to hunt the right way. The old way, the human way, and the Nightmaw? The Nightmaw is a perfect example. She is bigger and stronger than me. If I fight her head-on, I lose. But I have been tracking her for 3 months. I know her patterns, her territory, her locations. If I needed to kill her, I could. Not through power, but through knowledge and patience. A sound echoed through the jungle, deep and rumbling, like thunder but somehow alive. The Voidstalker was calling. It knows where we are, Taeyang said. Of course it does, and it will come eventually. Kale stood, strapping his blade back into place. Which is why we are not going to sit here and wait. We are going to hunt it. Hunt it? A Voidstalker? You want to prove humans belong in the guild? Kale's smile was fierce. Then stop thinking like them. Stop trying to match their strength. Start thinking like a human. Like a persistence hunter. We are not going to fight that creature. We are going to run it down until it cannot fight anymore. Then we make the kill. Taeyang felt something shift inside him. Fear was still there, but now it was mixed with something else, excitement, understanding. How? First, you learn to see the jungle the way I do. Not as an enemy, but as a tool. Everything here can help us or hurt us. Knowing the difference is what separates hunters from prey. Kale started walking. Come, we have work to do. That creature out there thinks it is the apex predator. Time to teach it what real predators look like. They ran through the jungle in a steady rhythm. Not sprinting, not walking. Something in between that Taeyang could maintain for hours. Kale set the pace, his breathing calm and controlled. Taeyang matched it, focusing on his footfalls and his breathing. The Voidstalker is following us, Kale said without breaking stride. It thinks we are fleeing. Let it think that. Are we not fleeing? No. We are leading it where we want it to go. There is a difference. Kale pointed at a broken branch. See that? The stalker passed through here about 30 minutes ago. It is making a wide circle, trying to get ahead of us. Taeyang saw the disturbed leaves, the claw marks on a tree trunk. He would have missed them if Kale had not pointed them out. How do you know it is the stalker and not something else? The depth of the claw marks, the spacing of the tracks, the way it moves through dense vegetation without hesitation. Kale jumped over a fallen log. Every creature leaves a signature. You just need to learn how to read it. They continued running. Taeyang's legs burned, but he kept pace. His lungs worked hard in the humid air, but his breathing stayed steady. This was what his body was made for. Not short bursts of speed, but endless movement, covering distance until distance itself became a weapon. Tell me about your training, Kyle said. On Earth, standard guild training. Combat weapons survival skills. Did they teach you about persistence hunting? They mentioned it. But most instructors focused on power weapons and armored combat. They said humans needed technology to compete with other species. Kale made a disgusted sound. Fools. They are trying to make you into something you are not. Humans do not need to match alien strength. We need to be smarter, more patient, more adaptable. He stopped suddenly, kneeling beside a dark stain on the ground. Blood, still wet. The stalker killed something here less than an hour ago. Taeyang examined the scene. Scattered bones. Torn vegetation.
It ate?
No, it killed for sport. See how the body was torn apart but not consumed? The stalker is not hungry. It is establishing dominance, killing everything in its territory. Kale stood. That is its weakness. How? It wastes energy on pointless kills. It moves fast but burns fuel quickly. We do not. Kale started running again. We are going to push it. Keep it moving. Never let it rest. A Voidstalker is powerful for the first hour, dangerous for the second hour. But after that, its own metabolism becomes its enemy. Understanding dawned on Taeyang. We tire it out. Exactly. Your ancestors used this technique on Earth. They tracked animals for hours, sometimes days. The prey would run in bursts, exhausting itself. Humans just kept coming. Steady. Relentless. Eventually, the prey collapsed. Kale's smile was fierce. The Void Stalker has never encountered persistence hunters before. It does not know how to handle prey that refuses to stop. They ran for another hour. The jungle changed around them. Thick vegetation gave way to rocky ground. Steam rose from cracks in the earth carrying a sulfur smell. Volcanic activity made this area unstable but also created natural channels and passages. Perfect terrain, Kale said. We can use this. A roar split the air behind them. Close. Very close. The Void Stalker had gotten tired of circling and was charging directly at them. Do not stop, Kale ordered. Maintain pace. Taeyang wanted to run faster, but he forced himself to keep the same steady rhythm. Behind them, something huge crashed through the undergrowth. Trees bent and snapped. The ground trembled with heavy impacts. Then Taeyang saw it. The Void Stalker burst into view about 100 yards behind them. It was massive, easily twice the size of the night maw. Its body was covered in black scales that seemed to absorb light. 6 red eyes glowed on its elongated head. Electricity crackled around its body, the bioelectric field that disrupted technology. It was the most terrifying thing Taeyang had ever seen. Do not look back, Kyle said. Just run. Trust the process. The stalker gained on them rapidly. 50 yards, 40, 30. Taeyang could hear its breathing now, feel the heat from its body. Every instinct screamed at him to run faster. Hold pace, Kale said calmly. 20 yards. The creature's breath was hot on Taeyang's neck. He could smell it, a scent like burning metal and rot. Kale suddenly veered left into a narrow channel between 2 rock formations. Taeyang followed. The channel was barely wide enough for them to run single file. Behind them, the stalker slammed into the rocks, too large to follow easily. It roared in frustration. They emerged from the channel and kept running. The stalker found a way around, but it took time. Precious seconds lost. First lesson, Kale said. Use the environment. Make the size difference work against it. They repeated this pattern for the next 2 hours, running steadily, leading the stalker through difficult terrain, using narrow passages, dense vegetation, unstable ground. Anything that slowed the creature down or forced it to burn extra energy navigating obstacles. The stalker's roars became more frequent, more frustrated. It was getting angry, which made it sloppy. Kale called a brief stop near a stream. They drank quickly while watching their back trail. Taeyang's legs were exhausted, but he felt good, alive. His body was doing what it was designed to do. How do you feel? Kale asked. Tired, but I can keep going. Good. The stalker cannot say the same. Kale pointed back the way they had come. Listen, Taeyang focused. The stalker's breathing was heavier now, labored. Its movements through the jungle were less graceful, more desperate. It has never had to chase prey for this long, Kale explained. Its metabolism is burning hot. It needs to stop and rest, but its pride will not let it quit. So it keeps chasing us, getting weaker with every minute. How much longer? Another hour. Maybe 2. Then it will be vulnerable. Kale's expression grew serious. But here is the truth, Taeyang. Even exhausted, a Void Stalker is deadly. When we make the kill, there will be no room for mistakes. One wrong move and we both die. I understand. Do you? Because back at that camp your team is probably dead by now. The Night Maw would have attacked after we left. The survivors, if there are any, will be running for the ship. But we are here, about to attempt something incredibly stupid. You could still leave. Run for the ship yourself. Taeyang thought about it. Really thought about it. Then he shook his head. No, you asked me why I am here. To prove humans belong. This is how I prove it. Kyle studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. Your ancestors would be proud, come on. Time to finish this. They ran again. The stalker followed, its movements now clearly sluggish. It stumbled occasionally. Its roars were weaker. Kyle led them to a rocky canyon as dawn began to break. The rising sun cast long shadows across the stone walls. This is where we make our stand. The canyon gives us advantages. Limited space for the stalker to maneuver. Multiple escape routes if things go wrong. And the morning sun will be in its eyes. What do I do? Exactly what I tell you when I tell you. No hesitation. In a real hunt, the pack moves as one. You are my pack now. Trust me, and I will trust you. The stalker crashed into the canyon mouth. In the morning light, Taeyang could see how much the pursuit had cost it. The creature's scales were dull. Its breathing was ragged. Saliva dripped from its jaws, but its eyes still burned with rage and hunger. It saw them standing there, waiting. It roared, a sound of triumph. The prey had finally stopped running. Now it could kill them. Kale drew his massive blade. The weapon gleamed in the dawn light. "Remember," he said quietly, "we are not prey. We are persistence hunters, the apex predators of Earth. And it is time this creature learned what that means." The Voidstalker charged. The final confrontation had begun. But back in the jungle, something else was happening. The Nightmaw had indeed attacked the camp. Scarath was dead, killed by his own cowardice when he tried to abandon his team. Velkaris, despite her broken leg, had organized the survivors. Daejung fought beside her, his experience proving valuable. They were retreating toward the canyon, following the sound of the stalker's roars. They did not know what they would find there. But they knew that if Kale and Taeyang were still alive, they needed help. And perhaps, just perhaps, the survivors were starting to understand that size and strength were not everything. That humans had their own kind of power, the power of endurance, of persistence, of never giving up. In the canyon, Taeyang faced the charging Voidstalker and held his ground. Fear was there, but so was something else. The knowledge that he was exactly where he needed to be, doing exactly what he was meant to do. He was a human, a persistence hunter, and the hunt was not over yet. The Voidstalker charged like a living avalanche. Its 6 legs pounded the canyon floor. Despite its exhaustion, the creature was still terrifying. "Still deadly?" "Left wall," Kyle ordered. Taeyang ran left without question. Kale went right. The stalker had to choose, and its instincts chose the larger target. It veered toward Kale, claws raking stone as it turned. Kale was already moving. He rolled under the creature's first strike, his blade flashing out to cut a deep line across the stalker's underbelly. Black blood sprayed. The creature roared and spun, but Kale was gone, already 20 feet away. "Now," Kale called. "Throw!" Taeyang pulled a flash grenade from his belt and threw it at the stalker's head. The explosion was bright and loud in the enclosed canyon. The stalker's 6 eyes shut reflexively. Blind for just a moment, Kale used that moment. He climbed onto a rock outcropping and jumped, landing on the creature's back. His blade punched down between armor plates. The stalker thrashed, slamming itself against the canyon walls, trying to shake him off, but Kale held on. He pulled the blade free and struck again. And again. Each strike precise and calculated, targeting weak points in the armor. The stalker finally managed to throw him off. Kale hit the ground hard and rolled. The creature turned toward him, murder in its glowing eyes. "Here!" Taeyang shouted, waving his arms. "Look at me." The stalker's head swiveled. It seemed confused that such a small creature would dare draw its attention. That confusion cost it. Kale was back on his feet, circling to attack from another angle. This was not a battle. It was a coordinated hunt. Kale and Taeyang moved like they had practiced together for years, not hours. When one attacked, the other distracted. When one drew the creature's attention, the other struck. They used the canyon walls, the rocks, the rising sun in the stalker's eyes. The creature was powerful, but it was also exhausted. Hours of pursuit had drained its reserves. Its movements were slower. Its reactions dulled, and it was bleeding from a dozen wounds. "Taeyang," Kale called. "The neck." On my signal, Taeyang understood. He pulled the knife Daejung had given him. Good steel from Earth made for earthwork. He moved into position, heart pounding but hands steady. The stalker lunged at Kale. The alpha hunter dodged, but deliberately slower than before. The creature's jaws snapped shut inches from his body. Its neck was extended, vulnerable. Now! Taeyang ran forward. He jumped, using a rock as a springboard, and landed on the stalker's neck. The knife in his hand punched down hard, finding the gap between armor plates. He felt it pierce deep, felt hot blood pour over his hands. The stalker screamed. It reared up, throwing Taeyang off. He hit the ground and scrambled backward as the creature thrashed. Kyle was there, his blade singing through the air one final time. It cut deep into the same wound Taeyang had opened. Critical damage. The stalker tried to roar, but the sound became a gurgle. Its legs buckled. The massive body crashed to the canyon floor. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then Kale approached the fallen creature, checking for any signs of life. There were none. The Voidstalker was dead. Taeyang sat on the ground, breathing hard. His entire body shook. He had just helped kill one of the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Him. A human that the guild had dismissed as too small, too weak. "You did well," Kale said, offering his hand. Taeyang took it, letting the older man pull him to his feet. "Very well. You listened. You adapted. You did not panic. That is the mark of a real hunter. We did it together, Tae-Yang said. I could not have done it alone. Neither could I. That is why humans formed packs. Cooperation multiplies our strengths. Kyle clapped him on the shoulder. But you need to understand something. What we just did? Most guild hunters could not have done that. They would have tried to match the creature's power and died. You trusted the process. You trusted your human instincts. That is why you are still alive. Voices echoed from outside the canyon. Kale and Tae-Yang turned, weapons ready. Then Dae-Jung appeared, his plasma rifle raised. Behind him came Velkaris, limping but determined, supported by 2 Krelthar warriors. 3 Chirrut scouts brought up the rear. They stopped, staring at the dead Voidstalker. Impossible, Velkaris whispered. You killed it. 2 humans killed a Voidstalker. We killed it, Kale corrected. Tae-Yang struck the critical blow. All eyes turned to Tae-Yang. The young human still had blood on his hands and clothes. He stood straighter, meeting their gazes without flinching. Dae-Jung smiled, a rare expression on his scarred face. I told you, size does not matter down here. Where is Scareth? Kale asked. Dead, Velkaris said. Her voice was flat. The Nightmaw attacked after you left. Scareth tried to run, abandoned us to save himself. The Nightmaw killed him first. The rest of us fought together. We managed to drive the creature off, but we lost 2 more warriors. And then, we followed the sounds of battle. We thought you might need help. Velkaris looked at the stalker again, then at Tae-Yang. But I see you did not. She moved closer to Tae-Yang despite her broken leg. Her forearms reached out. From a pouch on her belt, she pulled a blade. It was beautiful, crafted with obvious skill. She offered it to him handle first. This is my second best blade, she said. Among my people, we give weapons to those we respect, those we trust to watch our backs in battle. She paused. I was wrong about you, about humans. I let prejudice blind me. You saved my life yesterday and I repaid you with insults. I have no excuse for that, but I can offer this, a token of respect warrior to warrior. Tae-Yang took the blade, feeling its perfect balance. Thank you. No, thank you. For showing me that strength comes in many forms. Kyle watched this exchange with approval. Then he reached up and removed something from around his neck. It was a pendant worn with age, marked with symbols Tae-Yang recognized. The Alpha Hunter's sigil. Tae-Yang, Kale said formally. The guild will argue about what happened here. They will say you are too young, too small, too inexperienced. They will make excuses for why a human should not have this. He placed the pendant around Tae-Yang's neck. But in this jungle you hunted like our ancestors. You endured when others would have quit. You adapted when others would have broken. You proved that humans do not survive despite our nature. We thrive because of it. Kale's voice grew stronger. You are kin. Hunter to hunter. Human to human. Let anyone who doubts you doubt me first, the words hung in the air. Every hunter present understood the significance. Kale, the legendary alpha hunter, had just claimed Tae-Yang as an equal, as kin. It was an honor beyond measure. Dae-Jung stepped forward and placed his fist over his heart. A human salute, kin, he said simply. To everyone's surprise, Velkaris did the same with all 4 hands. Kin. The other survivors followed one by one. Even species that had mocked humanity days before were showing respect now. They traveled back to the dropship together. The journey took most of the day. Kale guided them through safe paths, avoiding dangerous areas. He seemed to know every inch of the jungle. At the ship, they called for evacuation. Within hours, guild rescue vessels arrived. Medical teams treated the wounded. Officials began asking questions about what had happened. Dae-Jung's helmet camera had recorded everything. The persistence hunt. The fight with the Voidstalker. Kale declaring Tae-Yang as kin. The officials watched the footage in silence. 1 month later, Tae-Yang stood in the guild's great hall on the orbital station. The massive room was filled with hunters from across the galaxy. Word had spread about the human who helped kill a Voidstalker. Everyone wanted to see him. The guild council sat at a raised platform. The council leader, an ancient Varrox named Tharak, studied Tae-Yang with shrewd eyes. Tae-Yang of Earth, Tharak said. Your actions on Kashvar Prime have been documented and verified. By all accounts, you displayed exceptional skill and courage. However, some council members question whether one successful hunt qualifies you for advanced status. Before Tae-Yang could respond, Kale stepped forward from the crowd. He was dressed in formal hunter's armor now, cleaned and polished, but his presence was still that of a predator. Council leader Tharak, Kale said. I formally petition to return to active guild status. But not alone. I request partnership with Tai Yang. We will operate as a two-person hunting team. The hall erupted in whispers. Kale had not spoken to the guild in 5 years. Now he was returning and he wanted to partner with an unproven human. Alpha Hunter Kale, Theric said carefully. Your return is welcome, but surely you can choose a more experienced partner. I choose him because of what I saw in that jungle. Taeyang has something rare. He understands what it means to be a true hunter, not someone who kills for sport or credits. Someone who respects the hunt, respects the prey, respects the process. Kale's eyes swept the hall. How many of you can say the same? Silence answered him. I thought so, Kale continued. The guild has become soft, wealthy, dependent on technology and numbers. You have forgotten the old ways. I intend to remind you, starting with my partner. Taeyang represents what hunting should be. If you reject him, you reject the very principles the guild was founded on. Theric was quiet for a long moment. Then he gestured to another council member. A woman approached. She was human, Taeyang realized with surprise. She looked professional in her guild administrator uniform.